I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the fiscal year 2022 budget discussion start of all the meetings that we've proposed to do to get the budget ready for fiscal year 22. We're the Ways and Means. Today is April 7th, 2021, and it is 5:31. This meeting is being recorded and videotaped by the Ways and Means Committee and GCTV 15. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chairperson at this time. Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Chairperson Forgy.
Here.
Councillor Jarvis.
Here.
Councillor DeSorger.
Here.
Councillor Mayo. Councillor Mayo?
He's on.
Oh, he is. I think he's muted.
Okay.
Here.
Okay.
Thanks.
Great.
And I'm Councillor Bottomley here. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. There are no minutes to be approved, and there's no public comment at this meeting, and there are no motions tonight. The purpose of this meeting is a budget discussion with the mayor. It's an executive presentation of the mayor's fiscal year 2022 capital budget. I know we have all received or about to receive a wonderful budget book. It's been well put together and contains a lot of information. So I'd like to compliment the mayor and everybody that's worked really hard on getting this budget book out to us. It's a great resource for us. Tonight, what I wanted to do was I wanted just to understand how the capital budget was put together. And I know it was with input from the Capital Improvement Committee and the mayor and Council Wheeler, who was chair of Ways and Means in the previous council. So I welcome everybody tonight, and I am going to open it up for a presentation if that is something that the mayor is interested in doing. And then if you have any questions about that, just feel free to ask them after the presentation. Basically, we just need to get a sense of how the decision-making process happened, what were the priorities, and how they came to all these conclusions. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending tonight's meeting. And Mayor, I'll turn it over to you, if I may.
Okay, clarifying question. Is it just me presenting the budget tonight? You don't have public safety or any of the other folks logging in to present theirs? That is tomorrow night?
That is tomorrow night, correct.
Okay, I knew we went hither and yon a little bit on that, but now
we did.
I think we've got it. The only other thing is, and this is a technical issue that I have no idea how to resolve, other than Liz or Chris. Is there, Liz, are you just going to have to drive? Is that the way it's going to have to be?
Yes. So what I will do is I can start each slide.
Yeah.
And you can tell me next or something, and
okay.
I'll click again. All right.
Okay, that'll be fine. For those who are wondering what's going on, apparently I did change my password this week because you have to do that every so often. But for whatever reason, I couldn't log into the VPN tonight, so I don't have control of the slide presentation. But I do, I can certainly present with Liz's help, so I appreciate her logging on to do that. So the capital budget process begins very early because it has to get to the council very early, dictated by, as you know, the schedule of the charter on how we do this. So the Capital Improvement Committee is a committee that also receives the information from the different departments on the capital budget. The capital budget is a 5-year plan. So you will see that in the documents that were sent to you, and that the different projects play out over 5 years. Oops, what just happened? And so you'll see that I have an echo. Is there some reason, Nick, or somebody, why that is? It wasn't happening earlier. Okay, as long as everybody can hear me, and I'm going to proceed. It seems to have gone away now. So, so you'll see projects that might on the documentation that you got that will all say FY22, and those are the projects that were submitted by the department heads for this year. They have other projects listed for 23, 24, maybe into 25. So what I'm concerned about this year and was concerned about this year was the FY22 capital budget. Typically what they do is present their projects, and they may present more than one. In the case of the fire department, they only presented the one. But they may present more than one, but then they prioritize them. So as a partial answer to the question, how were the decisions made? They will say priority 1, priority 2, and maybe priority 3. And that's what I pay attention to. It's not that priority 2 might not get funded, but there's a reality at the end of the day. We do plan the budget based on a continued commitment to both upgrading our aging equipment, that's a capital expense, and our vehicles, upgrading our aging infrastructure, and maintaining buildings to meet all code and mandatory professional standards. It's not really very sexy. It has to do with the bricks and mortar and all the other infrastructure that the city is responsible for. Every now and then we'll get a fun project like a new fire station or a new library or something like that. But the rest of it is pretty much ongoing upkeep of the very important pieces of the city that provide us with all the services that we need. When I see those priorities, I pay attention to them. The budget is submitted to me. I have an opportunity to talk to each department head about their capital. Basically, that happens once in earnest, once it's presented to the Capital Improvement Committee. That's a committee of 3 people. It is the chair of the Ways and Means. At that particular point in time, because the process starts early, it was Otis. It is someone from the Planning and Construction Committee, usually the chair, and that was Jean Wall. It has been in the past the chair of the school committee. I'm sorry, it's the way it probably should be. It has been the superintendent. The superintendent chose this year not to attend any of the capital improvement meetings, so it was really a group of 2, and Liz Gilman, who is there to advise and to answer questions, and myself. I'm only there to listen to the department heads. The department heads have an opportunity to come into the Capital Improvement Committee. I mean, they're asked to on a basic schedule to commit to present their capital requests. And again, they discuss their priorities. So based on that information, they make their choices about how to spend the money as the advisory committee to the mayor. Going back to the school department. It's very important that a representative of the schools is on the Capital Improvement Committee. But over the last couple of years, we've discussed whether it is in fact really fair for the superintendent to be a member of that committee. It is better suited to a citizen who represents the schools. So that citizen could be the chair of the school committee. It could be the chair of the Budget and Finance Committee, as far as I'm concerned. So we have asked the Charter Commission to change that. And the reason for that is no other department head gets to sit on the Capital Improvement Committee and pass judgment on what other departments spend. And when you have someone in the role of superintendent, it really doesn't care. It doesn't matter who that person is. It's not a level playing field.
Okay.
So I don't know why it took so long to figure that out, but I think we figured it out this week, and I mean this year, and I think as counselors, you'll see that suggested change in the charter when it comes to you. So this year it was Otis and Jean Wall, and as I said, Liz there as a non-voting member, and myself as a non-voting member. So that's the process. And priorities. I mean, I did send the memo, the 3-page memo, so you can read that, but I won't go on and on. Basically, we have to keep our capital spending in line. We do not want to be borrowing but beyond our ability. So unfortunately, in some cases, I had to make decisions about every project that our department has bring forward are important. They don't bring forward frills or things they don't need. It's not a wish list. It's something that they actually do plan for. And I think you can see that in the narrative that have been sent to you, whether it's a vehicle that is well past its lifetime, that is costing more to maintain it than not, and actually might be a safety hazard, to frankly, some buildings that are like that. So it's always, the capital budget sometimes harder for me as mayor to put together than others, because we need everything on that list at some point in time. So that's why I had to, as I said, reluctantly make some decisions that I didn't want to make. We did have the advantage, or I did have the advantage of, at that particular point in time, knowing that we did have some money that we could put into capital stabilization. Fortunately, you folks saw it the same way and did, I believe it was in your March meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was in your March meeting, you approved putting $600,000+ into capital stabilization. I anticipated that some version of that money would go into capital stabilization, and was hopeful that that would happen. So it did, and thank you. Because it was an avenue for me in a very tight year to be able to say, well, all right, we can, Liz gives me bottom lines. That's her role. She says, you know, this is the money we have available to borrow, and don't go over it. And so I try real hard not to, but still try to meet all the needs. And I was able to do that by, in some cases, as you'll see, I don't know, it's a handful, 3 or 4 cases, I was able to spread it from not just borrowing, in other words, to lessen the amount that we have to borrow, I was able to spread it between borrowing and capital stabilization. That's what that capital stabilization fund is there for. And it's one of our financial policies that when we spend it, we will eventually replenish it. So I didn't feel overly guilty about taking some of it. So the objectives that I had in mind in doing this, and I guess you could call them priorities, was the beginning of necessary renovations to the police department building in order to maintain the all-important accreditation that we do have for the department, as well as the safety of our officers. That building, I think the last time it was renovated was 1998. Well, I'll get into, this is my intro.
Oh, sorry. I thought you
That's
wanted
okay. I
to
like
show.
looking at it. I like looking at it.
Oh, okay, then that's fine. We can go back over it again. So that was a priority, and I think I explained in my memo, and certainly I think Otis is on here. He certainly understands this. There was originally in 20 when I got there, $5 million for a police department renovation, of police building renovation. And I kept thinking that somehow or other we could begin to access that money. If we could just do a fire and police station together. Well, I was rather quickly disabused of that idea. And so we have a new fire station. We do not have a new police station. But yet we still have to have the police department functioning. It's a much newer building than, say, the existing fire station. It can be renovated. The ability to renovate it does have limitations, but we kept that $5 million in there and felt it was important to spread it out over several years, as opposed to try to spend it all at once for a variety of reasons, not least of which is increasing our borrowing. So, with consultation with the Capital Improvement Committee, with Liz, with the police chief, we worked out a way to spread $5 million over 2 years, 2 or 3 years. I forget which it is without looking. So the first round is this year at $1,350,000. And I asked the chief, what can you get done with that? The Capital Committee felt it was really important to, with whatever money was given put in the budget for 22, that we hire engineers and architects to study the actual need, not the need. We know the need is there, but what is the actual cost going to be to cover all of the different needs over the 3 years? And I'm sure when you talk to the chief, he can give you more information on why these were chosen. A lot of them do have to do with maintaining accreditation, but there are some others that also have to do with police officer safety. And I don't just mean physical safety, but their health too. Their ability to function on their job within the building. So that was a priority for me. And you see this here. There are certain fencing, the server rooms need to be upgraded. We have a lot of new software and things that need have a lot more power in the computing system. So they need to have a proper server room in which to put all the equipment. Upgrades to dispatch. Dispatch is in a tiny little space. They're elbow to elbow. They're in there for hours and hours and hours on end. And they need to have upgrades within that room. Same with locker rooms. There's a significant number of locker rooms. Fortunately, we have several female officers, so there's some ability to separate that out at least. And basically, these are improvements to safety and security. A second priority of mine was the Sanderson Street work. If you think about Sanderson Street, you don't think about it until you really stop to think about it, but it is a very, very important street within our city for the reason that it has the middle school on it. It has the recreation department, so another city building with critical departments in it, both rec, health department, and inspections and planning. And it has the hospital, and it has medical buildings, the medical offices. And it's very, very old. The infrastructure on that is very old. So we've been trying to get that funded in one way or other for at least the last 3 or 4 years. For whatever reason, the previous councils did not see the need. And the infrastructure has only gotten older and older. We are talking about 100-year-old cast iron pipes that are too small, that are not to code, et cetera, et cetera. So it was important to begin that process on Sanderson Street. Marlowe felt like it was very important to spread the wealth because it involves sewer, water, and regular, DPW work. So it's spread out both as far as capital is concerned, in the regular capital budget, and then in your water and sewer budget. And I think that helps both share the wealth or share the money or whatever, share the burden, and also helps make sure that each piece that needs to get done gets done in a way that makes sense so that we can continue on. That is a project that will go, I think, over a couple more years. Then there's the ongoing repair and upgrades to our roads and sidewalks. Again, those are important things. And the roads that are listed in the priority on the slides are fairly important as well. There's the Sanderson Street. So these different roads include, as I said, Bascom Road. They're like roads that you maybe don't travel a lot, but they are definitely in need of repair. And then our sidewalks, as we know, are ongoing. Many of them are still not as handicap accessible as they should be. And so it's important to keep them on an ongoing basis because it only gets worse. And then lastly, what I like to call a down payment on a long-awaited skate park, as well as some upgrades to our parks to enhance their ability to be utilized by residents and visitors in keeping with what I mean, we have all learned the importance of being out and being in fresh air, perhaps in ways that we hadn't ever thought of before because of the pandemic. And the importance of actually being able to have access to recreation and parks. We are, after all, a park city, a nationally recognized one. The skate park is something that has been, in some ways, a stepchild on the capital budget, year after year after year. Yet it's something that many parents and many kids would like to have. And there's an ongoing complaint, and I'm sure as counselors you've heard it too. There's nothing for our youth to do. They need things that they can do, such as a skate park. Some of the kids from years ago when the skate park became something that we thought we wanted to do, those kids have aged out. I wouldn't be surprised if some of them don't have kids. Maybe they're not at skate park ready age, but
Yep.
they probably do have kids. And I know my own son-in-law is someone who would have loved the benefit of having a skate park. Doesn't do that anymore, but he would have at the time. So we committed, or I chose to reduce that budget, just as I say, keeping my eye on the bottom line. And so it's $350,000. Christy is committed and will actually begin the process of applying for the park grant. The park grant needs to know that the city is behind this, and that's why funding it in the budget will help them get the additional, I forget what it is, another several $100,000. Well, it's a matching funds, so she would have liked to have matched 450, but they're going to match 350 if you approve the 350,000. Here are community gifts sitting in a fund already of 23,000. We certainly need more, and the parents are committed to that. So the design at the moment is a 12,000 square foot skate park for both beginner and advanced skaters. Those were my priorities. I'm happy to go through all of the slides very briefly with you.
I'll go back to the
start at the beginning, and it's up to you, Chris. We can start at the beginning, and if counselors have questions on these, I'm happy to answer them to the best of my ability.
Okay, I think we would just like I love the screen and the presentation at the same time, actually. I think it's very effective. And so I think we'd like to hear the ambulance, the HVAC piece, and there was one other, I think.
Central maintenance, maybe. No?
Yeah, central maintenance.
Oh, there's another recreation one too.
Okay, that would be, yeah. We'd just like to do those. That would be fine, because we've seen the screens for the others, and that worked out perfectly.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Sure. So the ambulance is a lease, and it replaces the current ambulance one, which is a 2013 Ford ambulance. So it's definitely, needing an upgrade. Both ambulances that the city has purchased are used ambulances. So both of the ones that are in service right now are used already. The ambulance one is a frontline service. According to the fire chief, it is recommended that an ambulance remain in frontline service for 3 to 5 years and then be transferred to backup in 5 to 10 years. So I think he's looking at this one as having a good long service time of 8 to 10 years. They're asking for the $295,000 to be approved through a lease purchase. They'll be putting $50,000 down, and they'll make a yearly payment of no more than $50,000 for no longer than 7 years. And the money, this is the good news. The money used for this purchase will be from the ambulance revenue account, and that account was set up to help fund the cost of ambulance capabilities through the years. This would be the first new ambulance for the fire department. In other words, they've always purchased used. And they have, and particularly since COVID hit, a ever increasing role in emergency services, EMS delivery for the city. So it'll cut down on out of service time and maintenance costs. It's the advantage of having new versus used. Any questions? I mean, you'll hear from the fire chief, so.
Right, right.
Let's see, we talked about these, oh, gravel. Did we mention gravel?
I would like to know what that is.
Okay.
And why it's so damned expensive.
My goodness, I'll give you some gravel.
Really. You know, was
Yeah, it lasts.
in this, but basically what it is they are crushing gravel from other projects that they then reuse in preparing walks, gravel lots, and parking lots. So basically they are recycling from waste rather than purchasing new. To purchase new, I don't have my notes right handy with me, but to purchase new would be significantly more money. So it's the $90,000 in order to just basically facilitate recycling so that we have gravel available for all of the different things that we use gravel for.
According to Marlo, this lasts quite a long time too, when they do this, like 10 years.
Yeah, it's not a small pile of gravel.
Let's see, sidewalk we talked about, HVAC.
HVAC, yeah. Basically, they are looking to replace air conditioners and steam heat in the DPW yard building with a mini split heat pump system. So for the offices, the break room, and the locker room. And they're going to rebuild steam traps and repair fan coils. The current system that they have is very old and very inefficient. And if any of you have had mini splits put in, then you know how well they actually do the job. I only have one, and that's in our bedroom, but I'm considering a couple more. And what's happening is the air conditioning and the heating system is not effectively distributing across the building. So, and then, you know, there's just the energy savings that comes from being able to use something like a mini split system rather than having an old system not working well. Canceling or delaying the project would result in basically higher operating costs due to the fact that the heating system, the old system, has to run longer since it hasn't been designed. It's not operating as well as it should be. So then we'll also increase energy savings from replacing the window AC units as well. So it's basically a small amount of money for, I think, what's going to be a very good return.
Also an air quality issue with this too, that it will address.
Okay.
Let's see, what do we have? We did the skate park. This one.
Beacon Park upgrades, again, not a very large amount of money to continue our, we'll be enjoying being able to, both as residents and visitors to the city, which we hope to have many more of in the months and year to come, to have access to some great things in our parks that you don't necessarily see in every other park, such as bocce courts. We have a long history of Italian Americans in Greenfield. There used to be bocce courts over on Oh dear. I used to know this because it was where Italians lived when they first came to Greenfield.
Oh, that would be over in Fort Square in that area.
No, but it's also off of Conway Street. It'll come to
Conway
me
Street,
because I
okay,
used to
yeah.
have where's Ashley when you need her? She grew up on that street. Anyway,
Unity Park.
they used to have a vineyard over there, and they used to have bocce courts over there. And then we have water fountains at we have water fountains at both at Beacon Field that are basically don't work. I know that for a fact because that's where I live and walk over there a lot. And they're not ADA compliant, nor are the pathways. So that's basic. And a bocce court's a very inexpensive installation. It's basically what you see there, court 1 and court 2. They can be made with sand, which is what you see there. They can be a hard, soft surface. Just depends on what we design. We haven't gotten a true design. These will be open as you see them, but from the people that I know who want bocce courts in Greenfield, they are willing to fundraise for a cover, for a pavilion to go over it, both to provide shade and to, keep it from snow and all of that stuff, rain.
Okay, so thank you, Mayor. That was.
Like there was something else.
Is there something else?
There is. It's not moving. There we go. Didn't move on me.
Yeah, you didn't
Okay.
ask for GSAT, but
We'll take it.
okay. GSAT, in some ways is a no-brainer. A lot of people want GSAT. We get calls for that all the time, or emails, and John's been doing a great job of working with what he has in order to continue his build out. So this is basically build out materials, $145,000. I didn't cut that piece, so that was the department request. The CIC recommended it. And it'll cover approximately 87% of residents by the end of FY21, or he will have been able to do it with the additional build out materials.
Just a question, if I may.
Yeah, I did notice somebody had a question in the chat too.
Okay.
I don't know who it was.
Let's see who it is.
That was me, and that
Okay. Councilor Mayo, go ahead.
That goes back a couple of slides, if we may.
Which one?
It goes the one where it identifies work on sidewalks.
Okay.
See.
Oh,
there we
Yeah.
go.
There you go.
We go. Yeah.
Does that include, because I've been told that one of the sidewalks that they were going to do, besides work on Sanderson Street, which is more than just sidewalks, was West Street, and that was going to be sidewalk replacement was going to be used for, or some money was going to be used for a sidewalk replacement on West Street. Do you know if that money that is signified there is going to cover that on West Street?
To be honest with you, I'm going to give you a slightly different answer. I think the answer is, I'm going to say it's a yes and a no. I believe West Street sidewalks are covered in the CDBG grant that we're finishing out, I think, this year. Typically, they would, they're doing the water and sewer.
Right.
on West Street, and they don't usually tear up the street and the sidewalks and then leave them that way. They always plan that into the grant. So I'm going to say without total confirmation that West Street is probably covered in that grant.
Okay.
I can certainly
All right,
find
thank
that out for you before you have to vote. So I will
Okay.
find that out, Counselor Mayo. So this $100,000 would be many of the other sidewalks, and I wasn't given a list, and I don't recall if any kind of a list was provided with the request. Marlo has those things in his head.
Ah,
So we can ask Marlo when we talk
Yeah.
with him. That
Okay.
would be,
All right.
that would be good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, I'd just like to point out that when we're talking about GSET water and sewer funds, those are enterprise funds, correct?
Yes,
Correct.
they are.
Okay, so we're taking on the debt on behalf of enterprise or water sewer, but they will be paying out of the enterprise fund, so it will not really be a hit appropriation.
Here's a screen for that.
Federal fund, sorry. That's what I meant to say. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Liz. That's great. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it is it's on the borrowing summary, and it does count towards borrowing, but it does get paid out of other resources, user rates and operating funds and so forth.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So is there any other pieces to our presentation here tonight? I would just ask if people have general questions regarding how everything was put together. Please ask them now. We will be getting into the minutia as
Right.
we go forward with our next meetings. So I'll open it up for questions.
I'm going to put this here.
Yeah, there you go.
Can I speak to this a little bit?
Sure, we'd love to have you speak. That's
Oh.
great.
So what this shows is just a summary of all the funding. What is under the general fund. So you'll see there's 2.282687 million for borrowing that the general fund will be responsible for paying that debt service on. You'll see the capital stabilization account that the mayor spoke about for a grand total of 285,000. The lease that is paid out of the ambulance revolving fund. Chapter 90 is actually a grant
Right.
that is used in conjunction with the 100,000 highway or 200,000 highway. The sewer fund has one item out of retained earnings. The other is borrowing. The water fund is the borrowing is the Sanderson Street as well as the borrowing in the sewer fund. They're both Sanderson Street. And then water retained earnings for two items, a truck and a water study. And then GSET we already spoke about. To see the ones, this is from what I call available funds. So retained earnings is an available fund. It's not borrowing.
Right.
As the mayor said, capital stabilization, we use 285,000, so that's not borrowing. And I threw the ambulance in here because it's not general fund.
Right. Revolving.
It's a revolving fund. And then in terms of borrowing, as the mayor said, the enterprise funds pay their debt service through their user rates. And the general fund pays the debt service in our operating budget. It falls within that 8 to 10%. A question folks may have is, what does this do to our debt limit? Be happy to go into it and take you back to that December meeting. But basically what I'm going to keep it simple. We are authorizing 2,282,687, but in the same year, 1,530,500 is being paid off. So yes, we're utilizing an additional 752,000. And that's the debt service, you see things go on and off, and it's managing all that. And that's why, the mayor spoke of her staying within, parameters or bottom lines. That's because we're managing this. So anyway, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, Chris, if I could,
Sure.
Councilor Forgy, I misspoke by spreading spreading the burden of Sanderson Street over the 3 different areas. I believe that the Sanderson Street project will be fully funded and we will not go into other years. It'll be done in 22.
Right, it was split between different aspects, the sewer part of Sanderson, the water part of Sanderson, and the paving.
Regular paving, yeah, the paving and sidewalks.
The one that's spread is the police department that will be spread over several years.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
So I'm opening it up to the committee. Points of clarification with the mayor in the presentation. We again will get into minutia as we proceed. So, who's got it? Councilor Mayo?
Yes. I'm not sure. You can tell me right off the bat if it's a minutia question, and I'll hold right off.
Okay.
We were told at a council meeting, I think it was over a year ago, that one of the reasons why that we decided not to do a police department and dispatch and fire all in one is because it would cost too much money, and it would be $10 million just for the police department alone, and we didn't have that, and we weren't going to have that because we already had some capital projects in the wings, for like the library and the fire department and things of that nature. So if our goal is, I don't want to waste money. I mean, if we're going to replace that building in 10, we were told 10 years, because it had a 30-year life when the police moved in there, and we're pouring, it seems to me like we're pouring a lot of money into that building for something that we're not going to be there that much longer. I mean, yes, I mean, a couple more years is okay. You want to stop me there? Okay,
yeah,
go ahead.
I do, because I'm actually, I think that the mayor and Liz might give you some background into that very quickly, but I think the appropriate place for that question would be with the police and fire department as we talk to them tomorrow evening.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
I can certainly speak to a higher level of that, at a higher level, and Liz can too. Actually, a new police station would be in the neighborhood of $36 to $42 million to get one that meets all of its necessary safety codes. So then Liz can tell you about the meeting we had with our financial advisor, who said it would be 2036 or 2039 before the city could afford that. Consequently, that's why we decided to spend the $5 million on this building now, because it is a newer building, and with that amount of money being spent on it over the 3 years, and next year maybe we'll choose to fund more if we have the ability to do that. But this year we're asking for the 1.3. Hopefully we'll get the study that says, well, in addition to the 5, you're going to need a couple more million, and then we'll address that. But then the building will last longer, more than the 10 years. It won't be ideal,
Okay.
but it will last a little longer than the 10 years.
So you're looking just to extend it,
It's life.
It's like,
year to year, so to speak.
Extended and address accreditation issues.
Yeah.
Yes. I know, I understand that.
Okay,
okay.
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other questions?
I do.
Counselor DeSorga?
So I have a couple of questions, but the skate park. This is the project, the total cost of what the whole project would be. That would be a question.
That's probably better addressed by Christy, because I think she has the total in her mind. It is roughly 700,000, I think, at the end of the day, but it depends on how elaborate we want to get. So certainly the 350 is a good start. She'll get a matching grant, so we would be almost there. I mean, assuming she gets the grant. If she doesn't get the grant, then we may have to go back to the drawing board and find other ways to fund some of it to get started, or do it in stages. So I think she could give you her vision and how it might play out with or without the grant.
Follow up if I may.
Oh, absolutely, please.
Okay. So I know that there's going to be a lot of money coming our way for the school. Is there any possibility that this could be incorporated into, that funding could be incorporated into paying for the skate park, as looking at it as part of a something for the kids, like near school? In other words, have we thought about that?
I'm going to say no, because schools are schools and cities are cities in the eyes of the state and how they spend money. Every skate park I know of, saw a couple of really nice ones on the Cape this past weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Every skate park I know of is a city project, not part of your recreation sections of your schools. But Liz may have a better handle on that. I know that the money coming to the schools is really addressing programs and energy, ways to retrofit our buildings and some other things.
I just want to add that every single borrowing order states within it to be reduced by any grants received.
That's true.
So that will be an option. I don't think it'll come under education, counseling disorder, but we have yet to see what's to come in all the infrastructure money. So again, it could get reduced by some available funding.
And that's really a good way to look at it. Thank you for that, Liz. As you know, if you read enough borrowing orders, we do account for that. And sometimes it's to add on, and sometimes it's to replace. In other words, now we don't have to borrow so much because we have availability of this magical money from somewhere. But I think that, yes, there's a lot coming down in infrastructure that isn't just addressing waters and sewer and stuff like that. It is some other things.
Counselor Jarvis.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Just a funny off take on that. One of the grants that I applied for came out of USDA for Homeland Security for radios. So you never know where money's going to come from. Figure that out. The USDA for Homeland Security. But anywho, on another note, do we know? Maybe this would be a question for maybe Christy. Do we know where the skate park's going to go, or do we have some locations in mind? That would be definitely helpful in making a decision.
Right now, we are targeting the a section of the Chapman Davis parking lot. Because of its central location, and because Riddell Street right now just isn't an option for much of anything. That may change in the future, but I think we're going to still have water issues there, even if we were able to address things. So I think that right now it is the Chapman and Davis lot, but that's not a hard and fast decision. Not yet, anyway.
Okay, is any other comments or contributions or anything anybody would like to say before I close the meeting?
Ginny's
Okay.
had her hand up.
I'm
Jenny.
sorry, who?
I had a couple more. I actually have a couple more questions.
Oh, sure, Ginny,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I didn't want to
The floor is yours. Yeah,
floor.
go ahead.
So, is there any cost for liability insurance with the skate park? Is there any extra hidden cost with that? Because there's a lot of accidents with skate parks.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is.
Do we know what that cost?
No, I mean, we have
The whole thing is.
I mean, Liz can probably address this better, but we are covered under Maya for many, many things. And I'm thinking that's an organization that we buy our liability insurance from. And, you know, it probably covers that, but I don't know the answer to that. Christy actually probably does know the answer to that. But it would be no more than at the swimming pool or any of the other places that we have.
Right.
Ginny,
Okay.
I can try and find out for you, Jenny.
Yeah.
My follow-up is not on this. It was on the police station. And so I have this other burning question. Am I misremembering this? But I thought when we were voting for the fire station, I certainly can save the chief, but it's actually easier to ask this tonight. I thought I recalled that that was okay. That building was basically pretty good, and what they needed was I think I'm remembering something about there was a problem with the entryway, and they needed like a rug in the front. And then, is anybody else remembering this differently than me? That building itself was in pretty good shape, and I was actually my other counselors, if anybody remembers, that this was as dire as it seems today.
Okay, two things. Anybody on the committee that wants to jump in is fine. Anybody who's not on the committee, we can't have your comments right now because of open meeting law. So if anybody is sitting on Ways and Means and wants to send a question to one of us to ask, that's fine, or to answer. And and I just want to, and if there's anybody out there that wants to remember with Ginny, please jump in. Just don't even put your hand up.
Okay.
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay, Chris, this is Ed. Yeah. I do remember Robbie saying at one time last year that they would be coming to look for money from the town because the police department wasn't going to be included in the public safety committee building, a public safety building anymore, that he would need money to do his accreditation, which is very important to the city of Greenfield and the members of that department. They strive very hard. These are his words that I remember, that they strive very hard at reaching that accreditation, and that they would be looking for somebody to keep that accreditation. So in other words, if they don't get these repairs done, then the accreditation, they lose it. That's what I remember Robbie saying last year at a meeting.
Thank you. I see that Sheila is, well, can I not have Sheila speak because she is?
Chris, this is not an important question. I'll call you after the meeting.
So she could certainly address it to me or to Liz in an email as well, and we'd be happy to answer, or both of us, either way.
Okay. Great, thank you. I'm very mindful of open meeting law. Okay, are we set for now? I want
Counselor
to,
Mayo,
pardon?
Counselor Mayo looks like he has his hand up.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Doug.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do remember, as Jenny remembers, the same thing that the Chief Haig said is, I think I even remember a figure that he said $10 million. That's why I was kind of surprised when you said, or somebody said that the whole building would cost $35 million.
No, a
Is
new one. I'm sorry,
what?
Counselor, a new building, a brand new building
Oh,
would cost that. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
But they, he was asking for $10 million, to keep it running over the years, and that I didn't realize it was maybe I got it mixed up that that was whether it was a new building or an old building, but now that I realize that, we're straight.
Okay,
Thank you.
good to go.
But I do remember him saying the exact same thing that Ginny said.
Okay,
Um,
yes, go right ahead.
so, there's supposed to be this big infrastructure, this $2 trillion bill that's coming federally. Some of this, like some of our infrastructure things I am just saying aloud, is there a possibility that it might be a good idea where we've bitten off quite a few things lately that we wait to see if we can take advantage of the proposed legislation that is coming down, hopefully down the pike, maybe that will take care of something. One of those things that we have on the docket.
Is that a question that you want
Yes.
answered?
Yes.
I'm happy to answer that. I'm in contact quite often with both our state people and our state, legislators and our federal legislators, as recent as a couple of weeks ago with Elizabeth Warren for the small city mayors, of which I am one. And she was definitely singing the praises of more money coming, but specifically addressing the infrastructure bill. She said there will be one, but it will be a difficult fight. Whereas the reason we have capital budget for 22, 23, 24 is because those needs are needed now. As Liz has mentioned, the every financial order includes a phrase that says authorizes the mayor and other, I forget what the term is, it's right here in one of these orders, other officers. I don't think they mean police officers, other officers in the administration. The ability to offset any costs of borrowing with found money, grants, and other things. So if there's money that, if not for 22, but if it means, we can do some additional, I'm just to use the police department as an example. We can take care of 23 or a good chunk of 23 with some money that comes in from, whether it's an infrastructure bill, whether it's some other type of money that's coming. We would certainly do that. I mean, I certainly would look at doing that because I think the sooner that building is upgraded, the better. That's why, again, I want to go back to the money for 22, part of it, and that can be a substantial amount of money. It can be in the couple of $100,000 to have an engineering and an architectural study done so that now we have a plan. Now we know that we can do these 4 things this year. In a couple of years, you're going to need to do these 5 things and so forth. So I think I think that's that was the spirit in which the CIC, the Capital Improvement Committee, asked for that to happen in this first year of funding. And certainly the chief didn't disagree with that, and nor did Liz or I. So, but yes, I wouldn't count on, I guess what Liz, speaking of Liz Warren was saying was, don't count on it for tomorrow. In fact, fund the things now with the money that you're getting that are important now, and think about the other a little bit later. So if there's, and typically those infrastructure bills, sadly, don't always include public safety, whether it's fire, police, or other things. They include roads and bridges and those other things. So we'll see. Hard to get data these days on what it is those bills are going to actually include.
Okay. Is the committee all set? Okay, I'm going to move to the next announcement, which is tomorrow, Thursday, April 8th, 2021, 5:30 p.m. We are going to be discussing the mayor's 2022 capital budget with the following departments: GSAT, Public Safety, Recreation Department, and Department of Public Works. So we have a full schedule. I hope to start as prompt as we possibly can and give everybody a chance to ask their individual questions to department heads in regard to capital. If there is no other discussion or questions or other business, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Jarvis.
Second, Mayo.
Okay, thank you. The motion was made by Jarvis, second by Mayo. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. Thank you, folks, very much. I
Sure,
appreciate
thank
all the
you.
work.
Thank you.
Have